Etymology and historical origin of the baby name Calvin. Calvin is the transferred use of a French surname given among nonconformists in honor of the French theologian Jean Calvin, 1509 to 1564. The name comes from the French chauve meaning bald. Cauvin is the Norman diminutive of calve/chauve meaning little bald one. John Calvin, anglicized, was an influential religious scholar who broke from the Catholic Church during the Protestant Reformation and is primarily known for the development of Calvinism, a doctrine defined by predestination and total depravity, stressing the absolute sovereignty of God. This belief system would be adopted by Presbyterianism and spread throughout the world. Personality of the boy named Calvin. The number 7 personality is deeply mystical and highly in tune with their spirituality. They operate on a different wavelength than the average Joe. Spending time alone comes easily to 7s, as it gives them time to contemplate philosophical, religious, and spiritual ideas in an effort to find real truth. 7s are wise, but often exude mystery as if they are tapped into something the rest of us don't understand. They love the outdoors and are fed by nature. 7s are constantly seeking to understand human nature, our place in the universe, and the mystery of life in general. This makes them quite artistic and poetic, but they are also keen observers with high intellect, so they are equally scientific-minded. 7s are charitable and care deeply about the human condition. Popularity of the boy named Calvin. Given its religious significance among Reformed Protestant churches, the name Calvin has been an age-old American favorite. On the charts since the U.S. government began tracking naming trends in 1880, Calvin has enjoyed consistent moderate high usage. The height of the name's popularity came in the mid-1920s when, for a brief spell, it was a top 50 favorite among American parents. For the past 130 years, the name Calvin has averaged around position number 150, although today it's no longer on the top 200. Not only is the name Calvin influenced by the 16th century theologian, but also the 30th U.S. President Calvin Coolidge and the archetypal American fashion designer, Calvin Klein. But let us not forget Calvin from the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, syndicated between 1985 and 1995, the precious, precocious, and imaginative little 6-year-old who, along with his sardonic stuffed tiger Hobbes, gets into mischief and mayhem. A delightful character, we can easily see the attraction to this name. Cartoonist Bill Watterson actually named Calvin after John Calvin and Hobbes after Thomas Hobbes, a 17th century political philosopher. Calvin is often shortened to the one-syllable pet form Cal, as in Cal Ripken, Jr., which makes it a great choice for UC Berkeley graduates and Cal fans alike. We also find it interesting that Calvin is associated with the number 7 in numerology, the spiritual number, which makes it quite fitting for its original namesake, the religious theologian John Calvin. Quick facts on Calvin. Gender, boy. Origin, French. Number of syllables, 2. Ranking popularity, 195. Pronunciation, Calvin. Simple meaning, little bald one, nonconformist. Characteristics of Calvin. Eccentric, mystical, solitary, wise, intuitive, philosophical, imaginative. Cultural references to the baby name, Calvin. Literary characters of the baby name Calvin. Calvin is the precocious and often bad-tempered 6-year-old boy of the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, created and syndicated by Bill Watterson from 1985 to 1995. Together with his tiger, Hobbes, he has many fantastic adventures, which, of course, are largely undetected by the adults around him. Hobbes appears as a blank-eyed stuffed toy whenever any other characters are around, but is a clever and philosophically bent, sarcastic and highly dexterous playmate when the two are alone. Calvin and Hobbes are called after the 16th century theologian, John Calvin, and the 17th century philosopher, Thomas Hobbes, but that hardly matters to their devoted fans, even when they are subjected to thinly veiled, serious current world issues. The best thing about Calvin and Hobbes is that he is a seriously funny little kid. Cauvin is a character in the Madeleine L'Engle series of books about the O'Keefe and Murray families, beginning with the first, A Wrinkle in Time, published in 1962. He is a popular boy in high school, good at sports and academics alike. But it is his home life that is lacking. One of 11 children, he is either abused or ignored at home, and feels true warmth in the bosom of the Murray family, especially Meg Murray, with whom he forms a special bond. Meg and Cauvin are able to communicate in a kind of telepathic style. Together with the Murray children, Cauvin travels on fantastic voyages through the universe, meet otherworldly characters, more often than not saving the day against disasters. As the series progresses, the characters age appropriately, and Cauvin and Meg are wed and produce 7 children. We call that a happy ending. Popular songs on Cauvin. Laugh Cauvin, a song by Playmo, a song by Seven Nations, for Cauvin, the Ballad of Calvin Crozier, a song by Glauco Venier. Famous people named Cauvin. Calvin Edwin Cal Ripken, Jr. Baseball player, Cauvin, Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, Calvin Coolidge, U.S. President, Calvin Klein, fashion designer, Calvin Hill, football player, Calvin Ching, fashion mogul, Calvin Abrams, baseball player, Calvin Murphy, basketball player, Calvin Johnson, football player, Calvin Broadus, rapper known as Snoop Dogg. Historic figures with the name Cauvin. Born on Independence Day 1872 in Vermont, Calvin Coolidge's family had deep roots in New England dating back to the time of early colonial settlements. In fact, his great-great-grandfather was an American military officer in the Revolutionary War. Calvin Coolidge became a country lawyer in Vermont and joined the Republican Party, dominant in New England during his time. After becoming involved in politics, Coolidge went to Massachusetts and diligently worked his way up the political ladder until he became governor. After gaining national political capital stemming from the 1919 Boston police strike, during which time he held fast against the strikers whom he referred to as deserters and traitors, Coolidge would gain the candidacy for vice president on the 1920 Republican ticket with Warren Harding. In 1923, Coolidge would assume the presidency after the sudden death of Harding and was again elected in his own right in 1924. His presidency was marked by his laissez-faire approach, a small government proponent and a man of few words. As a Coolidge biographer put it, he embodied the spirit and hopes of the middle class, could interpret their longings and express their opinions. That he did represent the genius of the average is the most convincing proof of his strength. This reduction of government would not be revisited in any significant way until Ronald Reagan.